If you've ever wondered where that one missing sock got to, or what happens to the things that you stuff under your bed, well, maybe they found their way into the world of Forgotton Anne.
Developed by the Copenhagen studio Throughline Games, Forgotton Anne is a 2.5D puzzle platformer. You play as Anne, one of only 2 humans living in the Forgotten Lands, a world populated by misplaced and forgotten household items called Forgotlings.
Don't worry, we have lots of your kind here.
As the enforcer in this enchanted world, it's Anne's job to keep the Forgotlings in check, as her mentor and leader, Master Bunku, works on constructing the Ether Bridge.
The Ether Bridge is our #1 priority.
Which will allow them and those loyal to Bunku passage back into the human world.
But trouble strikes when the city is attacked by a group of rebels, threatening the completion of the Ether Bridge. With her Arca, Anne must harness the energy of the Forgotten Lands, known as Anima, to put an end to the rebel threat and restore power to the city.
We got Anima again, fellas! Look alive!
And what a beautiful city it is.
Indeed. The hand-drawn anime art style is very reminiscent of works by Studio Ghibli, such as Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away. Creative director and co-founder of Throughline, Alfred Nguyen, said that the team wanted to establish Forgotten Anne's individual style by taking inspiration from the things we love while still being true to our own identities.
I think they did an incredible job of that too, because not only does every environment look different, but they feel different. The slums and lower levels of the city are grimy and bathed in shadows, whereas the upper levels, like the train station and the tower, are warmly lit and beautifully decorated. This is also a comment on some of the game's deeper themes, like the corruption of power, the importance of thinking for yourself, and understanding that your decisions have consequences.
Yes, there's nothing like knowing that my actions will at some point come back to bite me. It does add a sense of responsibility though, doesn't it? Early on, I ran into a scarf that I suspected was a rebel and was given the choice to distill him with the Arca, turning him back into a lifeless object, or let him escape. I didn't know what to do. What would happen if I let him go? And then he went and he hurt someone else? Would that then be my fault?
Exactly. It's that kind of weight that really makes you question yourself in Forgotten Anne, because your actions will affect how the Forgotlings respond to you as well. Convincing them to aid you might become more difficult if you've been running around distilling their friends. It also teaches you to find other ways around problems. At one point, I was stuck behind a locked gate with a Forgotling named Tiffany blocking my way. I distilled her, only to discover that if I'd been more patient, I could have used the Arca to drain power from the gate, sparing Tiffany.
What did you do to me? What's going on?
I came here for puzzles, not feelings. But speaking of which, Forgotten Anne does feature some real head scratches. However, that's in part due to the lack of direction you're given, as you're more or less forced to play trial and error until you stumble upon the answer. It's not ideal, but once I found my feet, I found them interesting enough.
I have to disagree. To me, they felt more like filler to pad out the runtime. Most of the puzzles revolve around channeling or moving anima from one cylinder to another, working out where it'd be best spent. The problem with that, though, is your Arca can only hold enough for one charge at a time. So once you've powered something, you have to find more anima if you want to do anything else. If you aren't careful, this can mean some very frustrating backtracking to go back and find more.
That's kind of the point though, you have to be smart about your anima use. Powering lights in a room that you aren't going back to wastes energy you might need later down the track. But you're right, while you can't lock yourself out of puzzles per se, having to backtrack isn't really fun. Especially because the movement can be quite sluggish at times, particularly when it comes to jumping on and between platforms. I'm all for a good bit of platforming, but watching Anne belly flop off the same beam 4 or 5 times gets a bit tedious.
I think that comes down to the 2.5D layout. It can sometimes be difficult to make out what can and can't be jumped on or used when it's in the background or too far into the foreground, and that really hurts the flow of the game. While it does look really cool, I think a flat 2D plane would have been more effective here, or at least made it easier to get around. And it may have cut down on some of the Anne pancakes.
And cakes.
Final thoughts, Rad?
I think this might have worked better as a visual novel or a short film. For me, heavy narrative needs to be balanced with enjoyable gameplay, and I don't think Forgotten Anne just quite delivered on it. So I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5 rubber chickens.
While I agree the balance isn't perfect, because the story is so strong, so full of heart and emotion that it genuinely had me second-guessing myself, I think I can overlook that imbalance somewhat. It's a 4 from me.
Anne, how nice of you to drop in.